along the peninsula, and they're attracting people from all walks of life. Night Beach Joe Vasquez is in San Mateo County with the staggering new numbers.
Bacteria, rodents, black water, all of it.
Americans living without homes, in shelters, or on the streets continues to rise at an alarming rate.
RV life was once the American dream on wheels, but today, for over 1 million struggling Americans,
effort to build a better Bay Area. Tonight, we're looking at a mile-long stretch of road in Marin County.
The RV has become their last refuge from the housing crisis. Campground bans, government crackdowns, and skyrocketing costs are turning these homes into traps. This is the side of RV life they don't want you to see. Let's get rolling. A new face of homelessness is spreading across American cities, and it comes on wheels. More than 1 million Americans now live in RVs, vans, and trailers, not as a lifestyle choice, but because they simply can't afford rent or a mortgage. Major cities are witnessing this crisis firsthand. In Los Angeles County, vehicle dwelling has surged 55% in just 5 years. Rows of aging RVs now line industrial areas and residential streets. Phoenix, Portland, and Seattle report similar scenes, entire blocks filled with stationary motorhomes that have become permanent makeshift neighborhoods. These aren't vacationers enjoying the open road. Most inhabitants are trapped in decades-old rigs, often unsafe and breaking down, with nowhere else to go. They work jobs, send kids to school, and try to maintain dignity while living in vehicles never meant for full-time residents. As housing costs continue rising faster than wages, experts predict these numbers will only grow. What was once an invisible problem has become impossible to ignore, a rolling monument to America's affordability crisis. For over 1 million people, the American dream hasn't just stalled, it's parked on the side of the road, going nowhere. Behind America's RV homeless crisis lies a brutal math problem. With median home prices exceeding $420,000 and average urban rents topping $2,000 monthly, millions of working families face an impossible choice. When wages can't keep pace, a second-hand RV for $5,000 to $15,000 becomes not a dream purchase, but a desperate lifeline. This isn't the glamorous van life of social media. It's a family of 4 crammed into a 30-foot trailer in a Walmart parking lot, rationing generator fuel and searching for places to legally dump sewage. The costs pile up, $70 nightly at campgrounds they can't afford, or risk fines and towing by parking on city streets. These families aren't jobless. They're working, sometimes multiple jobs. But housing has simply outpaced what average Americans can earn. The RV represents their final foothold before complete homelessness. Economists project a grim future. By 2030, 1 in 10 Americans could face housing insecurity severe enough to consider vehicle living. What's emerging isn't freedom on wheels. It's a financial trap, a rolling symbol of a housing system that has fundamentally broken down for the middle class. The American dream hasn't evolved. For millions, it's been reduced to survival in a depreciating vehicle. A devastating new chapter is unfolding in America's RV homeless crisis. Retirees forced into vehicles because their Social Security checks won't cover rent. Over 20% of Americans over 65 depend solely on Social Security, averaging just $1,800 monthly in 2025, barely enough for food and medicine, let alone housing. Desperate for affordable shelter, many seniors drain modest savings to buy used RVs, hoping for simple independence. Instead, they find themselves trapped. Aging motorhomes break down constantly, with repairs costing thousands. Many campgrounds reject rigs over 10 years old, forcing retirees onto city streets or remote desert lots where medical help is dangerously distant. The costs never stop: fuel, generator maintenance, propane for heat. Seniors who worked decades find themselves rationing insulin in Walmart parking lots or shivering through winters in vehicles with faulty heaters and leaking roofs. Advocacy groups estimate over 200,000 seniors now call RVs their primary residence, with virtually no safety net if illness strikes. One mechanical failure, one health emergency, and they're stranded. This is the unthinkable reality for a generation that played by the rules. Their reward for a lifetime of work? Not the peaceful retirement they earned, but survival in a deteriorating vehicle, hoping nothing breaks down, including themselves. Tens of thousands of American children are now doing homework by generator light, showering at gym facilities, and calling aging RVs home. School districts across California and Washington report alarming increases in students classified as homeless who live in vehicles, a childhood defined not by adventure, but by instability and hardship. Picture a family of 5 squeezed into a 28-foot RV with broken plumbing, relying on bottled water and makeshift toilets. Meals come from gas station microwaves. Privacy doesn't exist. The constant hum of generators disrupts sleep, while frequent relocations to avoid parking tickets mean missed school days and broken friendships. Teachers see the toll firsthand. Exhausted students struggling without internet access for assignments, embarrassed by their living situations, falling behind academically. Advocacy groups estimate over 100,000 minors currently live full-time in RVs nationwide, numbers climbing yearly as housing costs spiral. These aren't families choosing nomadic freedom portrayed on Instagram. They're parents working multiple jobs, desperately trying to maintain normalcy while raising kids in vehicles.
It is inexcusable to accept Washington with homelessness of this dimension.
Designed for weekend camping trips, not permanent residence. For these children, the RV isn't an adventure. It's poverty with wheels, a rolling classroom in survival, and a daily reminder that America's housing crisis has stolen their childhood stability. As RV encampments grow, cities are fighting back, not with housing solutions, but with bans, fines, and mass towing operations that push vulnerable families deeper into crisis. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, and dozens of other municipalities have outlawed overnight RV parking on most streets, imposing fines up to $500 per violation. But the real devastation comes during towing sweeps, nighttime operations where entire blocks of RVs are impounded at once. For families already living paycheck to paycheck, reclaiming a towed RV is virtually impossible. Towing fees exceed $1,000, with daily storage charges climbing rapidly. Most never get their homes back. In one night, they lose everything: shelter, belongings, often their only asset. Officials justify these crackdowns citing public safety and neighborhood concerns. But critics argue the policies simply criminalize poverty, offering no alternative housing while making survival illegal. Advocacy groups report thousands of RVs seized annually, erasing not the problem itself, just its visibility. For those living inside, the message is clear: you're not welcome here. The crackdown feels less like law enforcement than an attempt to hide America's housing failure by literally towing away the evidence, along with the desperate families trapped inside. A quiet policy is making RV homelessness even more desperate: the 10-year rule that bars older rigs from most campgrounds and RV parks. Any vehicle over a decade old is automatically rejected, no exceptions, regardless of condition or maintenance. For struggling families, this rule is devastating. Most can only afford RVs priced under $10,000, typically 15 to 30 years old. Even when they scrape together money for nightly campground fees, the door slams shut based solely on their rig's age. Campground operators defend the policy as preventing eyesores and safety hazards. But the real effect is discriminatory. It systematically excludes the poorest Americans who desperately need legal, safe places to park. Retirees in well-maintained 1990s motorhomes and families in older trailers are turned away, forced onto industrial streets, remote lots without water or electricity, or illegal encampments. With over 1 million Americans now depending on RVs as housing, the 10-year rule pushes a massive portion into illegality and danger. Critics call it prioritizing aesthetics over humanity, transforming campgrounds into exclusive clubs for wealthy recreational travelers while abandoning those using RVs not for leisure, but for survival. The message is brutal. If you're poor enough to need affordable shelter, you're too poor to park here. For over 1 million Americans living in aging RVs, every day is a survival gamble against fire, illness, and hazardous conditions. Most rigs are decades old with faulty wiring, leaking propane lines, and broken plumbing, ticking time bombs that desperation forces families to inhabit anyway. To stay warm or cook meals, residents improvise dangerously. Indoor propane heaters, sketchy extension cords pirating electricity from streetlights, generators running non-stop. Los Angeles County firefighters alone responded to over 200 RV fires in 2024, many from makeshift heating or cooking setups. Sanitation creates equally dire health risks. Without sewer hookups, clean running water becomes scarce. Families ration bottled water for drinking, let alone bathing. Skin infections, dehydration, and disease spread easily in cramped, unsanitary quarters. Basic hygiene becomes impossible. Public restrooms and gym showers are lifelines, when available and affordable. These aren't mere inconveniences, they're life-threatening conditions. What started as desperate housing solutions spiral into health crises, burns, respiratory illness, infections. For America's RV homeless, survival itself has become the daily danger. As RV encampments multiply, they're igniting fierce community backlash. Neighborhood associations report streets lined with deteriorating rigs, accumulated trash, and overflowing waste. In Seattle and San Diego, complaints about vehicle encampments have surged over 40% in just 2 years. Residents cite legitimate concerns: fire hazards from faulty generators, crime, drug activity, and plummeting property values. The pressure on local governments is intense. Clear them out, neighbors demand. Cities respond with aggressive towing sweeps and parking bans that displace rather than solve. Even private campgrounds are shutting doors, raising fees or restricting long-term stays to avoid becoming homeless parking lots. The result is a brutal game of displacement. Push RV dwellers from one neighborhood, and they simply reappear in another, sparking fresh outrage. Some cities attempt safe parking programs offering legal spaces with basic services, but funding is sparse and slots fill immediately, leaving thousands stranded. The community anger is understandable. Nobody wants unsafe conditions near their homes. But the backlash reveals something darker: a housing crisis so severe that communities would rather hide the problem than address its roots. The fight isn't really about RVs, it's about whether America will confront its affordability failure or simply keep moving the desperate out of sight. The RV homeless crisis isn't just a housing issue, it's become a public safety nightmare both inside encampments and in surrounding neighborhoods. With over 1 million people competing for scarce resources like water, electricity, and safe parking, tensions boil over into violence. Police reports paint a grim picture. Portland alone logged hundreds of RV-related calls in 2024. Theft, assaults, and disputes between desperate residents fighting over generator access or parking spots. Drug activity thrives in these chaotic clusters, where traditional law enforcement struggles to maintain presence. RV dwellers face threats from all sides. Outside criminals target encampments knowing rigs contain tools, electronics, and valuables. Organized theft rings strip catalytic converters, worth $500 to $1,500 each, leaving families stranded with disabled vehicles. Break-ins are constant. Inside, residents sleep with weapons nearby, install jury-rigged alarms, and trust no one. The psychological toll is devastating. Constant hypervigilance, trauma, paranoia. Mental health crumbles under relentless fear. When survival itself requires guarding possessions 24/7, the line between victim and perpetrator blurs. Some residents turn to theft or worse out of desperation. The encampments become feared by neighbors and unsafe for inhabitants, a vicious cycle where poverty, crime, and danger feed each other. Campgrounds once offered RV dwellers a crucial lifeline: electricity, water, safety, and a semblance of normalcy. Now, as homelessness surges, these refugees are slamming their gates shut. Private campgrounds complain that long-term residents bring deteriorating rigs, clutter, and declining property appeal. Their solution? Price out the poor. Nightly rates have skyrocketed to $60 to $100, impossibly expensive for families surviving on $1,500 to $2,000 monthly. At those rates, a month's stay costs more than most apartments. Parks also enforce strict stay limits of 14 to 30 days maximum, forcing constant, exhausting relocations. Pack up, find another spot, repeat. An endless cycle that drains both finances and spirit. Even public lands offer no sanctuary. The Bureau of Land Management has slashed stay limits in many areas from 14 days to just 7. citing overuse and sanitation problems caused by the influx of desperate families. For over 1 million Americans depending on RVs as their only shelter, the collapse of campground access eliminates their last legitimate option. What's left? Overcrowded Walmart lots, industrial streets, hidden corners where they pray to avoid police. Campgrounds have transformed from support systems into gatekeepers, pricing out and pushing away those who need help most, driving vulnerable families deeper into illegality, invisibility, and danger. For decades, free overnight parking was a survival tool for struggling RV dwellers. Walmart lots, highway rest stops, and public lands offered places to sleep without draining already empty wallets. That safety net has collapsed. Walmart, once synonymous with RV-friendly hospitality, now bans overnight stays at over 70% of its U.S. locations. Highway rest areas post threatening signs. No overnight parking. Violators will be fined $100 to $300. National Forests and Bureau of Land Management lands have slashed stay limits and deployed more rangers to enforce them. For families surviving on $1,500 to $2,000 monthly, losing free parking is catastrophic. They're forced to choose: pay $60 plus nightly at campgrounds they can't afford, or risk fines and impoundment by parking illegally. Many gamble on the latter, parking in dark industrial zones, constantly moving before dawn to avoid tickets. Advocacy groups estimate hundreds of thousands now have literally nowhere legal to park. The closures aren't about safety or cleanliness, they're about making poverty invisible. America's famed open road tradition has become a cruel joke. What once symbolized freedom and welcome now means hostility at every turn. For over 1 million Americans whose only crime is being unable to afford rent, the message is clear: you're not wanted anywhere. For over 1 million Americans living in RVs, health isn't just declining, it's becoming a death sentence. Without stable addresses, many can't access clinics that require proof of residence. Most lack insurance. Medical problems that should be routine become catastrophic. A toothache festers into a life-threatening infection. Diabetes goes unmanaged until emergency hospitalization. Advocacy groups estimate nearly 40% of RV homeless adults suffer chronic conditions, yet receive virtually no consistent care. The vehicles themselves are health hazards. Inadequate heating causes hypothermia during freezing winters. Older rigs without air conditioning become ovens in summer heat, triggering heat strokes and dehydration. Improvised propane heaters fill enclosed spaces with carbon monoxide, sending residents to ERs, or worse, killing them silently while they sleep. Mental health devastation runs even deeper. Constant fear of towing, theft, and displacement breeds depression and crippling anxiety affecting thousands. Yet psychiatric care and medications remain impossibly expensive. Many ration critical prescriptions or simply go without, watching their conditions worsen. The cycle is vicious. Poor health makes finding work harder, deepening poverty, worsening health further. Emergency rooms become primary care for those who can reach them. For America's RV homeless, the fundamental right to health care is evaporating. Each day, more people trapped in deteriorating rigs face a brutal choice: suffer in silence or risk financial ruin seeking help. Over 100,000 American children are trying to get an education while living in RVs, vans, and cars, and they're losing the battle. School attendance becomes nearly impossible when families constantly relocate to dodge tickets, towing, or campground expulsion. Each move means a new district, lost credits, severed friendships, and starting over. Without stable internet, homework is a fantasy. Remote learning? Forget it. Teachers report students arriving exhausted from generator noise that rumbles all night, unwashed because there's no shower, unable to focus because home means fear and instability crammed into 200 square feet. The academic toll is devastating. These students fall behind quickly, missing assignments they can't access and lessons they're too tired to absorb. Research shows homeless students are 87% more likely to drop out of high school, virtually guaranteeing they'll repeat their parents' poverty cycle. Some advocacy groups attempt school bus stops at RV encampments, but funding is scarce and stigma keeps desperate families hiding from authorities who might involve child services. For these children, education, supposedly the great equalizer, the pathway out of poverty, is collapsing before their eyes. The American promise that hard work and school lead to success rings hollow when your classroom is an aging motorhome and your desk is a fold-down table you share with 4 siblings. The opportunity gap isn't just wide, it's becoming permanent. The RV once embodied the American spirit: freedom, adventure, endless horizons. That romanticism is dying fast. With over 1 million Americans forced into RVs by economic desperation, public perception has turned sharply negative. RVs are no longer vacation vehicles, they're rolling symbols of systemic failure. In Los Angeles and Portland, residents don't see travelers. They see eyesore encampments threatening property values. Media coverage has shifted from scenic national parks to crime statistics, RV fires, and overflowing sewage. The open road now feels dangerous, not liberating. This stigma punishes everyone. Recreational RVers traveling by choice face hostility and suspicion. Campgrounds implement harsh restrictions, assuming all RV owners are destitute. Neighborhoods oppose RV-friendly parking laws, fearing they'll attract the wrong element. The RV world has fractured into 2 incompatible realities. Instagram influencers showcasing $200,000 luxury rigs visiting pristine destinations, versus the invisible masses, families and seniors surviving in deteriorating 1990s trailers, hiding from police. This perception shift has real consequences. Negative stereotypes fuel political support for bans, towing sweeps, and criminalization. What communities once welcomed, they now reject. Unless housing affordability improves dramatically, the RV will complete its transformation, from icon of American independence to permanent marker of economic desperation. The open road is closing, one no parking sign at a time. The numbers tell a chilling story. From over 1 million Americans living in RVs today, housing advocates project nearly 1.5 million by 2030. Rising rents, stagnant wages, and relentless inflation are pushing more families toward RVs as their last stop before sleeping on streets. Yet policy responses remain woefully inadequate. Some cities experiment with safe parking programs, fenced lots offering bathrooms, security, and basic hookups. But the scale is laughable. Los Angeles serves fewer than 500 vehicles, while thousands remain scattered illegally citywide. These pilot programs are band-aids on a hemorrhaging wound. Without massive investment in affordable housing, the crisis will metastasize beyond major cities into small towns and rural highways. Technology may make survival even harder. Surveillance drones and automated license plate readers will hunt down RVers trying to stay invisible, making hiding nearly impossible. Advocates warn of a terrifying normalization, vehicle homelessness becoming a permanent American underclass. The RV, once sold as freedom incarnate, risks becoming the defining symbol of a nation that has locked millions out of basic shelter. This isn't just an RV crisis, it's a human crisis. What do you think is the real solution for America's RV homeless? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And don't miss our next video, 15 hidden RV laws that could get you fined in 2025.